Good morning.
Hello.
Good morning, everybody. How are we?
Very good. Hey, there he is again.
There I am again. I'm the actual teacher or host for this session.
Oh, okay.
So I'm for those of you that don't know me, I'm Master Percival. I'm the guild master for the Royal Eldemir Vexilollogy Guild. And for those that don't know what Vexilollogy is, I assume you do because you came here. It's the study of flags and banners and so on and so forth. So this is just a guild moot as such, just an open general discussion amongst folks interested in flags and banners. I have a couple of things I want to talk about, and then we'll open it up, and anybody who's got questions, or we can talk about anything related to flags and banners and so on and so forth. So I gather everybody had no trouble finding us with all the changes and shuffles that happened overnight with the Zoom meeting, unfortunately.
No, that one Google sheet there has got all the answers there. So
working good, is it? Yeah,
oh, yeah, it's fine.
Everybody's able to find it.
It's perfect.
Awesome,
yeah.
Awesome. If anybody wants to talk, just unmute yourself and talk in here, no problem. It's just going to be an open discussion, so
okay.
Don't worry about waiting or.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
The question is, like, we're new to the SCA, and so we're trying to figure out like how our heraldry is going to work and whatnot. And from what I understand, when you make up your heraldry, there's certain things that has to conform to be described by phrases to ultimately describe your heraldry, right?
That's correct.
And but for what I wanted to use like a bit of a nautical theme, and what I wanted to do is have, and apparently it's okay, is to have like a compass rose rotated 45 degrees to point to the North Stars, essentially. But you can't have the North Star, for what I understand, on the heraldry. That's my understanding.
I believe there are some rules about using certain stars in certain ways, but I'd have to look into it and look in the core rules to actually find that out. Have you got a herald up in your neck of the world that's working with you?
I haven't been working with anyone yet, other than just I work with Gina and Richard Cook, and they're giving us ideas. Yep. But I guess the question I have, if it's not legal to put on the heraldry, but when you go to display your heraldry at your at an event, is it okay to put a symbol, say, on the end of the bar that hangs up your heraldry? So you put the star at the end of the I guess the
crossbar.
Yeah.
You could do something along those lines. Basically, the core rules, SCA rules, as far as heraldry goes, apply to what you register with the College of Heralds, right, as your heraldry. Yeah. Once it's passed and you're going to display it, you can take some artistic license within reason.
Yeah.
And put other things in there, display it in other ways. You don't want to violate any of the core rules in terms of anything.
Of course, I understand that part. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but to put something like that off the side and have your compass rose pointing to that star that's not in the display, that's fine.
Okay. Well, now I know. Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So a couple of things I wanted to talk about is first of all, want to discuss ideas for the future of the guild in its entirety, where we're going to go. I'd really like to see a push on for education in the vexillology area. It is a subgroup of heraldry, and much of what we do revolves around heraldry and your registered heraldry once you have it being displayed. There's good, proper period ways of displaying heraldry. There's SCA ways of displaying heraldry, and I'd like to get that out into the general public so that we don't see people, like, for instance, trying to put things on their flags and banners that break the core rules.
Yeah.
So whether we kind of have a unified front when somebody comes out with a new banner, people aren't looking at it and going, oh my God, does he realize what he's just done?
Yeah.
One small error I made that you pointed out yourself. Years ago, I made a personal banner for myself, and I like the look of the swallowtail banner, and so that's how I made it. And that's so that's. Can you see that?
Not really. Your background is showing through it.
Holding a white thing up to the.
Okay.
You're holding a white thing up in front of a background, and it's just blanking it out.
How about?
No.
No.
Oh, we're getting a lovely picture of that trebuchet.
Okay. Well, the swallowtail is the end of the banner ends in two round bumps. And in English heraldry, if you're entitled to fly a banner, that's no problem. It could be square-ended or what have you. In Scottish heraldry, and my name is Duncan Gough MacLeod, somewhat Scottish, apparently that was reserved for barons. Now,
Correct.
that's been dealt with.
Yep.
So,
yep, I remember the conversation well, Duncan.
And so, well, I'm aware of that now. It would have been nice to know it at the time. So,
yeah.
Percival.
So, yes.
So I have photographed and gone through the Line of the North banners.
Correct. Yeah.
There's a lot of photos, so I didn't want to upload them to Facebook because I think it's going to take a bit of time and stuff. So I want to get an idea of what the guild would want specifically for the banners, because I know our discussion last was that we wanted to try and spread it out in the guild for people to work on.
Yeah, we discussed trying to get it up to date. I know it stops about 8 or 9 rains ago now or more. And we wanted to try and get some artists working on bringing it all up to date so that we can start carting it around, and particularly at major kingdom events, crowns and coronations, have it on display. So that is something that we need to discuss as a guild. We've got plenty of artists in the guild now, lots of people who are good at banner making in various formats. Most of these, I believe it's on a cotton material and painted, correct?
It looks like the same material they use for canvas, like a
cotton
painted,
duck.
a painted canvas.
Yeah.
Is it like acrylic, just acrylic brushed on paint rather than?
I believe so, yes. It's hard to know. Unfortunately, I haven't really been able to get a lot of information of what exactly was used and how they were created that way. I can just guess by looking at the actual banners themselves.
From my discussions with Rustique, yes, it was basically cotton duck or canvas painted with craft acrylic paints.
So why don't we just have hey, who wants to paint one? Raise your hand on the Facebook group, and then somebody can sign them out.
Yep, we'll figure out which ones we need, list them out, and people can pick up the ones they want to do.
So information-wise for me to provide, do you want me to provide an example of the template that was used and then list which ones need to be still completed? There's 2 blank canvases and 1 that was started.
Yeah, if you can do that, make a template that we can all work from, post it online in the guild group, and then we also want to go back and try and catch up on any of the ones that just have initials and stuff like that. If those people have now had arms registered, we want to play catch up with those. But let's first catch up with the missing ones, and then we'll go back and fill in the blanks afterwards. So if you could do that, get us a list of what is there,
Yep.
and what needs to be done, which reins are missing, and a template. Post that all in the guild group, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
The craft paints are easy enough to get in the real world anyways. I'm not sure how hard they'd be to get right now with COVID restrictions, but Michael's or any good craft supply store sells the paints. If you need paint, contact me. I've got pretty much every color under the rainbow of acrylic paint, so we could go that way as well.
So Percival, you brought up the subject of like wanting everybody to be on the same page about how people display things on banners. Is that?
Within the core rules of heraldry and stuff, yes.
Well, the trouble is, I don't think that banners have to follow the core rules. So
they don't, but we also don't want them to be offensive.
Of course,
we need people to realize
now
that,
in the SCA to prevent that, right?
Yes, but things like displaying reserve charges and so forth. We don't want new people coming in and making a banner with a bunch of crowns on it.
Right.
So we need to follow the core rules within those parameters. If you want to put a duck on your heraldry wearing a toque, okay, nothing we can do to stop you from doing that. But if you put a crown on the duck, now we got an issue.
Right. So is my understanding correct that, because I've heard this from Brand and other heralds, that like if you have a registered coat of arms, or if it's a group's coat of arms or whatever, when you go to make a banner, you don't have to present that coat of arms. You can take aspects of it and present it however you want on the banner. And you might try to follow a period way of presenting those, a period design for the banner, but you don't have to just put the coat of arms exactly as it's registered. You can pull bits of it and pull it apart essentially.
No, exactly. There's various types of banners, as you all know. I mean, there's one flying behind me here that's these were supposed to be flying at Fool this weekend, but unfortunately that won't happen. So they're flying in my kitchen.
Cool.
There's various types of banners, and each of those types of banners has their own set of period design elements and so forth. There's exceptions to every rule, as we all know. So some people would put things on banners that didn't necessarily follow the pattern, but your full coat of arms, for instance, or even an achievement of arms, for those of you that don't know what an achievement of arms is, you take your coat of arms, your basic badge, and expand on that with all the frou-frou that goes around it, the helmets, the mantling, and all that kind of stuff. Arms and achievements can be displayed in their full on what's called a gonfalon, which is a hanging banner. One of them sits behind the thrones at every court we hold with the Eldemir arms on it. You can make those for yourself with your full coat of arms on them. Other banners that are designed to fly as flags, you wouldn't normally put your full coat of arms on them. You could put elements of your coat of arms. You could put badges. I have one flying standard that has badges of the various offices that I've held in the SCA on it.
Yeah, so I wonder if, like, is there a good source of information about, what's appropriate and not appropriate on a banner?
I have a couple of PowerPoint presentations that cover that kind of stuff. Just give me 1 second here. I have to change my screen settings. I've got some stuff happening here.
While you're doing that, there was a question from the chat master, Percival. Someone who's new asked, how would one go about joining the guild?
Yeah, I see that. That's what I'm trying to get my screen sorted around here, but it's not letting me open that screen the way I want.
No, you can't while you're...
There we go. Okay, I got it now. Yes, if you want to join the guild, there's no real membership requirements. If you go on Facebook and look for the Royal Eldemir Guild of Vexilollogy, go in that Facebook group and send a request for membership. Tell us who you are and a little bit about yourself, and we'll approve your membership.
That's pretty easy.
It is dead simple. We have actually got members in that guild from pretty much across the known world. There's people from Drachenwald in there. There's people from the far west kingdoms in there. So yeah, basically the type of banner has some period. They're not rules. They're just customs, how people would use those banners in period. And that dictates what should or should not be on them in terms of period customs again. If you decide you want to put your full arms on a flag and fly it, go for it. Nobody's going to say no. There's no rules that says you can't. But it wasn't done very often in period.
Also, I would like to point out that if you have a banner, you typically did not, there are exceptions, like you say, but you typically didn't have your name on the banner because the heraldry is already telling people who you, when my arms are flying at an event, people, if they know me, recognize my arms and, okay, Duncan's here.
Right.
Yes,
There's
What they
exactly.
will have, what they often have is a motto on the banner.
There's a great
Yes.
video that I think Percival posted a while back, I think possibly, about why the Canadian flag is like a great modern flag, and comparing it to poor designs of some of the American town flags and that sort of thing. And that's what they do, is they'll put their arms on a flag, on the flag, with a bunch of other stuff around it and the name of the city. And yeah, we don't do that, right?
Yeah. Generally speaking, in heraldry, you don't put words in heraldry. You have to remember that heraldry and the flags that came from heraldry were developed in a time period where very few people could read. The only people that could read were the guy who owned the flag, because he was the lord or a duke or a baron or whatever. He was educated. The people who needed to know what that flag meant were illiterate. So you put symbols on the flag or on your coat of arms to say, this is who I am. And your followers and the enemy would know, hey, you see somebody with a purple shield with a beer mug on it, with a B on the beer mug, that's Percival. Everybody knows my coat of arms, that knows me well, knows what my coat of arms looks like. I don't need to write my name under there to say I'm Percival, because the only person would have been me that could have read it. Me and my herald, probably, because the heralds were well educated as well. But the people who needed to know where to find Percival, they didn't know how to read my name. They knew, look for purple with a beer mug. That's where Percy's going to be. And the flags followed the same thing. Mottos did come into play later on in period. But again, the followers of the army didn't know what those mottos meant. They knew how to say them, but they couldn't read it.
But but if you're going to have a banner, let's say, a banner might be displayed in areas maybe where some people couldn't read, but there might also be gatherings where people could read, like as general as the group of people. So maybe a motto on that might be appropriate for those events. So you might actually have two banners, kind of thing.
Possible. Yeah, very possible. Those types of banners with the mottos on them are actually called heraldic standards, and they were used primarily in battles for the most part, and they formed two different functions. They performed the function of here I am, so I would put my standard out there, and everybody who was going to go into battle following my standard would know where to find me. And then once the battle started, that banner would follow me wherever I went. My standard bearer, which was a very prestigious position in medieval times, my standard bearer would stick to me like glue. And the king, who was probably sitting up on the hill a couple of 100 feet away, far from the battle, out of danger, could look down on the battlefield and say, okay, I need Percy and his guys to go over and take care of that trebuchet. Where is Percy? There he is. Get a runner to Percy, tell him to go right and hit the trebuchet. And they could follow that movement through the banner, through the battle.
That's that tall thing with the banner hanging from it.
No, that's a long, thin, tapery. Let me try and see if I can put one up on my screen here. I'm not sure if I can or not, but
So you don't. That's not the banner behind you there.
no. The standard I'm talking about is a long, narrow. Here we go. Keegan's got.
There's a small standard.
This is a small. This would be more the size of a guidon, but this is the type of thing that a standard would be.
So apparently there was the different sizes for depending what the rank was. So a king's
Yes.
banner standard, I should say. I'm trying to think if it was feet. 15,
I thought it was like 16 feet or something.
15,
Yes.
15 feet, I think, and a baron's would be 12 feet
Yep.
long. So we made Ben Dunford's new war banner 12 feet long, and it's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, because that's the point of heraldry, being able to identify
that was-
people quickly from a distance.
But I love it. I love
Yeah, and
it.
it gets hung long down like that. It's not
Yeah.
a flag that's.
Yeah,
On
well,
a
this
pole.
one, it's supposed to be
Yeah, that one would
horizontal.
fly
I was just
that
trying to give
way.
you a-
So
Gee.
that's what I don't understand.
Yeah, I
in
don't get that either.
how, like, we're making these using a modern technique on light silk, and it flies really nicely. But the old war banner was painted on like a heavy cotton, and it had been painted, like repainted, so it made it even heavier. And I only remember one time that it actually flew, and that was when we had a really brisk wind on the way up to the opening ceremonies, and I was carrying it, and it actually was hurting people.
Oh, I can believe it.
That's why it got named Slappy.
Yep.
So we ended up retiring Slappy when we made the new one out of
Right.
silk. But the old one was like it needed a really strong wind to lift it and make it fly. And it was beautiful when that happened, but it only ever happened once in, decades. So
Right.
I'm not
I don't know how in period this happened.
yeah.
Like these things, like you say, they would have been massive. They would have been heavy. And, was the wind always blowing the right direction for them to really serve their purpose?
It's
I
something
don't know
I
that.
want to figure
Yeah.
out.
I would have thought it would have been hung so it hung straight down, because if the king was standing on a hill 200 feet away, like you're saying, like he'd be able to see something hanging straight down. But a flag that was sort of clumped together, if you had two of them that are even similar, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between them unless he knew
Yeah,
what the
and-
difference was.
My own banner I made from cotton broadcloth, and it's appliqued together with the different major elements. And it's light enough; it doesn't require a heavy breeze to fly, but it definitely is heavier than the silk banners.
Mhm.
But we know they did do sewn and applique banners in period. Now, I've never seen that I remember any illustration of a battle where they did this in Europe, but the Japanese actually had poles coming up from their back with a crossbar,
Yeah.
and the banner hung from that. Now the
it's
heraldry is
Sashimono.
completely different, but that's how they got around the issue.
And there are examples of banners that do have the crossbar on them, right? So it's kind of the square ones like this one, although this one doesn't. Cat, would you give it a rest? This one doesn't have a crossbar, but there are examples where this sort of squarish banner would have a crossbar over the top to hold it out.
Yeah.
Yes, and
Makes
and the type of banner you're talking about that hangs down, the king quite possibly would have had something like that at his location, so people could tell where the king was. But the units in the field would carry some kind of a flag type banner, like we're talking about, more so than a flying standard. I'm just trying to find a picture here that I might be able to share up here.
All right.
Going back to the standards being flown, the other thing to consider is frequently the person holding the standard would be on a horse and it would be unfurled as they were charging forward. So in a sense, you're making your own wind in that regard.
Depending on what unit the banner was representing, yes, if it was knights and cavalry and so forth, definitely they would have been on a horse. Most of the foot soldiers would have carried them. Your archers probably would have had some kind of a standard. They wouldn't move around the field as much, but they would know where that banner was to gather around when they needed to be used as archers and stuff. And your infantry units would definitely have had some kind of a standard, or possibly a smaller version of a standard, a guidon or something like that, that went with the infantry unit as they moved around the field. And I see Anna's adding some files over here for us to download, I believe, possibly pictures of some banners and standards. So if anybody wants to go over there and download those in the chat feature there. I'm just going to try and screen share here something and see if this works. Does everybody see that?
Not yet. So.
It just, oh, there we go.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah. Oh wow. Cool.
That's Eldamir marching to war. The type of banners we're talking about are those big, long, flowy ones at the tops of the picture there. And as you can see, the two biggest ones near the front are the king and the prince. They have the Eldamir royal arms on them. And then everything else further back has some sort of symbol or another representing Eldamir. They've got a wolf or the 3 trilliums. So that's how you would know what those banners applied to. If I'm looking for Eldamirian people, I look for those wolves, or I know that trilliums represent Eldamir. You'll also see pretty much dead center in the picture, you'll see the hanging banner. This one's hanging down, of Septentria with the great white bear on it. And that would have normally been used, as I said before, at courts and stuff like that, or stationary locations to identify the person, in this case, the Baron and Baroness of Septentria. We've got some shields being shown there. There's on the far right of the picture there, that handsome looking fella whose back you can see with the Kingdom tabard on. That's me. So there's the two more or less main types of banners that we use in the SCA today and that were used in period. Now, again, this is mostly referencing Western European chivalric society. There's variations of this for different cultures and so forth. The Japanese, as already mentioned, had the flags that hung in the back holders of the actual individuals. And in the Japanese cases, each individual person would possibly go to battle with one of those banners on their back. Hey, Wilmar, welcome.
Hi, thanks.
So yeah, that's some of the stuff that I want to try and get the guild working on. The history of flags. Where did these things come from? How long have flags been around? Where did we get the idea of flying this piece of cloth that represented us? There's a whole field of study there. I've got a project or a presentation based on that as well, that goes right back to as near as we can figure out the beginnings of flags and how people even in the prehistoric times, used some sort of symbology to represent themselves in some way or another. So studying the history of flags, studying the types and different things that applied to different cultures. We in the SCA, a lot of our focus is, as I said, Western European chivalric culture, where we get all of our heraldic rules from. And from that, most of our flags tend to follow that rule as well. We need to look at those other cultures. Dietrich is doing a Japanese persona and looking for things to help hook up a flag to his back so that when he goes into battle in his Japanese persona, he's carrying a period-looking Japanese banner. The Mongolian cultures had variations on banners, totally different outlook and how they designed them to what that Western European culture had. Various other Oriental societies had different types and styles of badges. I'd like to see us get into some more of that kind of information within the guild. If we've got people who are particularly interested in those cultures, they could become our point person for that kind of study. So in this case, again, Dietrich, if he's going to be our Oriental persona guy, he could develop lesson plans and that based on Oriental heraldry and flags.
Yes, we're the SCA in general is getting away from this is the way they did it in Europe. Therefore that's the way it's done properly.
Yes, and even at the heraldic level, we're starting to morph more and more to allow various cultures and help them develop heraldry based on their personas, but it still has to follow that Western culture kind of rule.
So where could we put files and information on the guild page about these different cultures? And is that a
Yep, there's a file. There's a file section there.
A more inclusive seeming group, if people are interested in these different cultures, come and they find, oh yeah, they've already got some information for me here. Or do you think they'd be like, wow, they got it wrong?
Well, even if they say, well, we got it wrong, that at least sparks a conversation.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. There's no reason why we can't put anything there that we want to represent the various cultures. I'm just going into the group right now to have a look at what is in the files at the moment. And my internet's not the speediest of things, and with running this Zoom function, it's even slower. So there's a couple of my PowerPoints already in there. There's a presentation on the history of flags, silk banner making, flags and banners in the SCA. They're already all in there. Some of them are a little dated. So I've updated most of them, and I will be replacing those files as time allows, so that the newest version of that document is in there.
Do people have a preferred format if they just like a photo album or a PowerPoint with explanations?
For in the group files? Sorry, I didn't see who that question came from, but in the group file?
Yeah, I was just asking as a group, like, do you guys prefer having exposition when a photo is posted, or would you like just the image?
I mean, I don't think having exposition hurts in any way.
No, it doesn't. As long as the image is there for us to see, it doesn't really matter what format it takes.
So going back to, because right at the beginning you said you were talking about, you know, to encourage education. What sort of plans did you have in that regard? To, you know, what can the guild do in order to further that?
I know we've talked about having, trying to get a banner making class organized, and that's been a bone of contention for a long time, trying to come up with a place, a time, and a way to teach banner making, specifically silk banner painting classes. I know Your Excellency, you run classes out in Ben Dunforth all the time with your group and doing various.
Yeah, I was going to say there are a lot of logistical problems with having a really productive banner painting class at an event, because there are various stages. There's drying time, there's weather. So the way that I've done it here, pretty much you have to have a crew of people, or at least one person who kind of gets everything to the stage that when you get a group of people there, they can actually do something and accomplish something. So there's a lot of planning that goes into it and prep work that goes into it. And it's just not easy to do at an event. So when we've done it here, it's been a matter of, okay, we ask a whole bunch of people, okay, what would be a couple of good dates? Because we have to set it up so that we have at least 2 dates that we're working with to do the different stages and have drying time in between. And then where do you put, if it's a massive project like we've done, where do you put those things while they're drying or in between stages? I tried painting at Penzic last year, and even with a big tent to put the thing away in every night, and I had them on frames with no feet, so I could just pick the whole frame up and put it in the tent. It was actually a bit of a real awkward problem having banners in progress on frames at a camping event, because you can't just leave them out in the weather.
Yeah.
So there are all kinds of issues why that sort of thing is difficult.
Exactly. Yeah, we've tried. We were working on trying to have a banner making day. I think was late last year, after Fools last year. Anyways, we started trying to put it together. Dietrich did come up with a location we might be able to use. It was just the logistics of getting enough people, teachers and so on and so forth, together that were willing to go, you know, dedicate a whole day to this. And then of course we need to get students who are interested in doing it that would dedicate a day. So that's still on the books. It's just, it hasn't come to any fruition yet, but that's the kind of thing that we need to think about. One of the ideas I had and tried to do last year at Fool, and it did work with some level of success, was setting up my pavilions at Fool and running strictly a Vexilollogy Guild stream of classes at the event. Again, banner making is the tricky one because of the logistics of it all. Her Grace Ryland did run a small banner making class where she had some, I believe they were about 1 foot square frames, where each person could, in an hour, I think it was a 2-hour lesson, make a very small basic handkerchief sized banner that would at least teach them the basics of silk banner painting. So that works from that aspect. Making the full size ones, as you said, is a logistical problem, trying to get them stored properly, protected from the weather and so on and so forth. So that's something that we'd need to look at. That would maybe need more of a permanent indoor facility.
Yeah. That being said, if we're doing something like that here, I always plan on putting the invitation out there for people to come join us here, because I have the space that I can do that here. So
yeah, and that's perfect.
Yeah. So anybody that wants to take part next time around, definitely don't be shy. Come in, and we can always use more hands working on banners here. So
Yeah. As far as some of the other lesson plans that I have on PowerPoint for like the history of banners and banners in the SCA, the different styles and stuff of banners, this has taught us, this Virtual Fools has taught us a lot about sharing this kind of stuff online with these sorts of lessons. I'm sure they've been going on for a lot longer than this, but some of us older folks have just discovered how to do it and how easy it is to do with Zoom and some of the other various virtual meeting facilities and stuff that are out there. So that's something that we certainly are looking at for down the road. I will be touching base possibly with Bernard to see if I can tag into their system if they keep the Fool thing, the Zoom thing after Fool. If I can use that facility to run some vexillology classes on a regular basis, and I'll just do like we did with this event, only in a one class basis, and say, hey, Eldemir, anybody want to learn how to make silk banners? Tuesday, July the 4th at 7 o'clock, I'm running a Zoom banner making class. And any of the others of you that are interested in teaching some of your skills in vexillology or anything, I mean, it doesn't have to be banners, but by all means, you know, float an idea out there, put a class together, and grab a Zoom, either the Kingdom Zoom or one of the cantons or baronies that has their own Zoom account. Ask to use it and put it out there to the kingdom, and let's get some more education going as far as banners and flags and so forth, so that we can prettify the place. Is prettify a word?
It is now.
I guess so.
Also, don't worry about not your first banner or such not being the perfect or all that you might have hoped it to be. Even a poor banner looks better than a cinder block wall.
You got it. You got it. I've made, I'm on banner number 213, I believe. I'm just waiting to put the tape on it and so forth to hang it up and fly. And I've never made a perfect banner yet.
Also, like I said before, there are other techniques for making banners beyond the silk making technique or dyeing technique. Any method that is used to make clothing was used to make banners. You know, you can patch them together. Applique, which is you take a piece of you take your main background cloth, you pin another cloth of a different color onto it, and then you sew it down all the way around with a not a linear stitch, but a very tight zigzag stitch, and you cut off all the stuff that doesn't look like what you want. So in my case, I've got 2 falcons on my arms. I put down a big chunk of red cloth on the white, sewed around to put to attach the red to the white, and then I cut off all the excess material around it, leaving the red falcon there. And that was done in period. You can embroider elements onto the banner. Every technique it was used in period to make the banners. So it's not limited to the one technique.
I should point out that we have another 10 minutes left before we have to skedaddle. Give that sort of 5-minute grace period for switching over classes.
Thanks, Dietrich. Yeah, there's various ways of making banners. There's, as you said, there's the applique, there's just painting. Throughout the ages, from the research I've done, there's various materials that have been used. Silk, believe it or not, although we think of silk as a reasonably modern thing in our Western cultures, silk was used for some of the very first banners and flags that were made out of fabric. So it's been used before, and the same technique as we use for painting it has been used for a long, long time in history, not just the recent applications that we use or how we do it. The Oriental societies, most of their banners were made with silk because that's where it came from. Silk started out in the East, and they had plenty of it, and the techniques developed how to make it. So there's the silk, there's painting on fabric in various ways. There's the applique. People wove them, embroidered them. Just phenomenal stuff. There's some extant banners out there that are made with a weaving process. And it's just amazing how they still exist, and you can still see exactly what they're supposed to be, and the colors are still reasonably vibrant in some of them. And they were woven on a loom.
Speaking of materials, a question from Gemma on the chat here. With her Shibori classes, she basically posts prep steps before class, so in order to get people ready so she can teach them. She's wondering if we could post links on the Facebook group of how and where to place orders for materials, since she has silk at the moment, but nothing else.
Yeah, we've talked about that in the guild a few times, but I'll put the resource list back up there again. There's a couple of companies locally in Canada. There's one in the US that's very good for products. The stuff's getting more and more expensive, particularly with the fella down south, and some of his battles with China have caused the tariffs and stuff on anything coming out of the Orient to double and triple in costs. So they're not cheap anymore, but I'll put all those links in the Facebook group, and we can certainly add to them as we find new resources and so forth. That's another thing I'd like to do with the guild a little bit further down the road, is look at package buying, get the guild to either just put together big mass orders. Hey, everybody, I'm going to be buying some silk next week. Who wants silk? Let's try and get a bolt. Instead of you buying 5 feet and me buying 10 feet and her buying a yard, let's buy a bolt.
That's how I got my silk, because Rylan was doing an order and we all ordered in bulk together.
Yeah, it's happened in the past, but I want to try and see if we can make it sort of a routine thing with the guild. And we can add it, put it out to the whole kingdom, even if they're not members of the guild. Anybody who's interested, the guild is going to be buying some silk painting supplies next month. If you want stuff, contact X and tell them how much.
And also, when you're planning out, before you even put your finger on the silk, plan out what you want to have your banner look like. Color it in with Crayola markers on a piece of paper, and scan it in, send it to Percival for hints and tips, or this might be difficult to do, or no, you can't really have a crown on that, or
post it in the
hints
guild
and tips.
page. Post it in the guild page. We can all offer our ideas and suggestions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody else have any last minute questions before we have to wrap this up?
So would you like me to do an article on Japanese banners? since I got voluntold for that earlier?
If you think it's within your wheelhouse to do something like that, that would be great.
I could probably manage that.
I have one book on Japanese heraldry and banners. I'm not sure whether you have it or not. I'll talk to you about it personally later on, and we can coordinate that.
Yeah, that sounds good. We still have 5 minutes before we have to leave.
Mm-hmm. Some of the names I don't recognize down here. Lori, where are you from?
Just a sec. Hi, I'm in Ottawa. I'm with Eldemir. I'm newer.
Oh,
And
okay.
I was coloring while I was sort of working on my own idea of what I like. But I keep getting told that orange isn't a good color.
No, orange is not one of the recognized heraldic colors,
Yeah.
unless you can find something that was orange in period. For instance, if you want to put oranges on your heraldry and blazon them as oranges,
Right.
they were orange.
Well, tiger lilies from Ontario are orange, and they go with the Ontario trillium, is what I was thinking.
Yeah, you might be able to sneak that through on what's called a step from period practice.
Right. I realized that I would probably have to go with a fleur-de-lis of some sort on the official, but the
Well,
idea
doing a
of,
lily is like like the natural lily is perfectly fine, right?
Yeah.
It's the combination of lily plus orange I think you may have stumbling
trouble with.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if there are orange ones in Europe or not.
You might like my device has a an autumn leaf on it, and it was intended to be an orange color, and I ended up going with gold.
Okay. Okay. So one, and I know there's supposed to be the 8 Crayola colors, the basic colors, working with those.
Yep.
But and the trilliums, do they have to be red or can they be white ones?
You can be any heraldic color you feel like.
Okay.
So if you
And do
want
people
blue
normally-
trilliums, you knock yourself out.
Well, I
Hey, Ronan.
spending a lot of time looking at different things that appeal to me. I'm not interested in, I tend to like orange things. So of course, tigers are, to me, are orange and black. Lions, whatever. But no, I think even if this doesn't become my heraldry, at some point I will make a banner for my own personal use that is in oranges and blues. But I joined through Gina and Richard Cook, and we've met.
I was their consulting herald way back when they started. I'm the one that's responsible for the heraldry they have.
Which is they're excellent heraldries. They really are. And we've got a daughter who's working on hers, and the one that she's thinking of is Gingerbread Woman, because she's a baker. And it's got a moon in it for woman, and I don't have it with me at the moment, but it's interesting to see how people try and figure things out.
Well, jump over to the Facebook group for the guild and put your ideas and stuff up there, and we'll all talk about them and go from there. And I think we're just about ready to wrap this up here. We got about a minute left. Any last minute questions from anyone?
The Facebook link for the guild.
It's, if you go on Facebook and look for the Royal Eldemir Guild of Vexilollogy, it should pop right up for you.
Okay.
I will post it in the Kingdom Facebook page as well.
Good.
Or you can click the link that I just posted.
There we go.
There you go.
Even easier. Thanks, Dietrich.
No worries. All right, we're coming up on the 5 to noon, so I'm going to end the meeting now. So I look forward to seeing most of you later in other classes.
Thank you, Percival.
Thank you.
Thank
you,
you
Percival.
all. Have a good day. Enjoy the rest of Fool.
Very interesting.